Okay, so Mistweaver basics. So the first thing I'll go over is talents. We'll start on the normal talents. This is like the basic talents. You don't really change anything ever. The thing, I don't change anything here ever because in twos you always play Crane. I'm gonna go over Crane mainly today. And you need Rising Thunder with that. But let me start from the top. I always play Chi Wave. I always play Chi Torpedo, but I know Tiger's Lust can be good against some stuff, even though I pretty much never use it because I really like the Chi Torpedo movement speed. Because when you Chi Torpedo once, it gives you this movement speed, and then if you do it one more time within this time frame before it expires at any point, it stacks, and then you have 60% movement speed. And I think that's really nice to work with. But Tiger's Lust can probably be good against some stuff because you remove a slow on your teammate. But I just really like Chi Torpedo. You always go Mist Wrap. You can change this as well. I pretty much always play Leg Sweep, but you can definitely go Ring of Peace sometimes if you're playing a comp where you don't need more stuns, or if it's a one-shot comp like Turbo Cleave in threes. Even though I'm going to mainly focus on twos right now, but I should mention that if you play against Turbo Cleave, for example, and they pop their Bloodlust Wreck and they go ham, you just put a Ring of Peace on yourself and you counter their pop every time with Ring of Peace. And then you go Healing Elixirs always because it's just too much healing. It's crazy strong and it saves you from dying in stuns. Like, it can be used in two ways mainly. So one way is when you play the Vim talent, where you're above 80%, your healing is increased by 20%. Sometimes when you're healing your teammates, you just pop an elixir to top yourself so you have 20% more healing. That's one way to keep your Vim up. The other way, mainly just that you have the stacks from when you're in a stun, and even though you're low, you know these are gonna proc, and you're fine. Because they heal you a ton. So you're like 30% health, you get stunned, and normally you would die, but then you see you have 2 stacks of healing elixir and you're like, maybe I can sit this. I think I'm fine. I don't have to Trinket. You know? Stuff like that. You gotta get used to how much it heals and how much damage people do, but it can definitely save you in stuns. And then here I always play the Serpent statue in twos. I know some people sometimes play the this Crane thing. I think this can be good against double DPS in twos, for example, or like really fast-paced games. It's more like bursty heals, right? With a long cooldown, and this will be more sustained. I think that's how you look at it. Again, I haven't really tried it much. I just play statue all the time, but I'm sure Crane has its use. And then here you play always Rising Thunder whenever you're playing Crane, which is what I'm going to focus on mainly. When you don't play Crane, I think with AMA you usually play Mana Tea, because you like crazy with that, with the this spec AMA and should Mistweaver arts. So that's those talents. This is extremely important for the Way of the Crane, by the way. You always need it, and it's like this talent plus Way of the Crane is what's the main thing about playing Mistweaver in twos, and a lot of the time in threes as well, but pretty much always in twos. On the first row, that's Trinkets. That's obviously situational. I'm Orc, so sometimes I can go Orc Rally. I probably don't do it enough. I just really like having a Trinket. Adapt can also be good in some situations. I pretty much never use it. Maybe it could be good against Ret Paladin, because the only CC they have is a Hodge, right? So you'll auto Trinket. But Adapt, when you play against smart and good players, they can usually punish you and just like, they just notice you have an Adapt and then play around it. You know, they save every cooldown, and then when they know you're stuck in a stun, they pop every cooldown. I don't like it. I think Adapt shouldn't even be in the game, to be honest. I think it's a stupid talent. Here, you never go Send Focus T. You either go Vim or Defender. You'll always go Vim when you can get away with it. But in twos, you usually go Defender because you'll lose your Vim in dampening. Twos goes to deep dampening very often, and then all the enemy needs to do is hit you for 2 globals, and then it's really hard for you to heal yourself up above 80% again, and then you have no value, right? So early game Vim will be sick, but then later on it won't do as much, because if you're playing against smart players and it's dampening, they're always going to hit you a little bit and make you struggle to get your Vim. Even if it's a hunter just spam CCing you, often the good hunters, when you get to a certain point in dampening, they will just hit you a little bit before they trap you. That's what I do when I play Hunter, right? I'll hit the healer in dampening, get their Vim off, and then trap them. And then when they come out of that trap, their partner is low and they don't have Vim. So they're like, do I heal myself up to get Vim or do I heal my partner? And that's a really awkward situation to be in when you're in deep dampening because your healing does so little. So Vim, very often not good in twos, but I'll pick it against something like Warrior very often because I just have a crazy amount of mobility and I can pretty much always kite a Warrior, right? So sometimes I'll pick it against Warrior, but it still can be kind of risky. I like to play super aggressive and be in people's face and just melee them when I play Monk because you have so many outs and then people get my Vim off very easily. So I often play with Defender. Next, it's between Yulon and Eminence, I would say. I don't ever go fast feet as a Mistweaver. As a Windwalker, I would go this all the time, but as a Mistweaver, it's between these two. I really like Yulon's gift. It's super nice because this means my roll dispels any slow, even the ones that are undispellable, like Chains of Ice. And then you have a sprint plus you're dispelled, so you just get away super easily, right? Just adds to your mobility. It's a lot better than it sounds. And then here we have Crane. I won't get too much into the other ones because we're going to focus on Crane because that's what we mainly play. Surge of Mist is just, I'll pick it against mages and sit behind the pillar and press my insta buttons and just avoid getting polyed with paralyze and leg sweep. Just play super defensive. It's really boring in my opinion. AMA makes it so that you have a Soothing Mist. This is Soothing Mist, right? That you can activate. Like you get a new button called Soothing Mist, you press it, and then you can get Counterspell. You don't have Aura Mastery anymore. And you just heal for the most ridiculous amount. It makes you heal so much if you actually have it up and you're spam healing. But you go really fast, and you can get interrupted on your Soothing Mist. So that's the downside. You don't play it in twos very often because of how you get. That's the main issue with it, that you just go super fast. And then this talent tree is pretty interesting. Cocoon is gonna be what you spec mainly, but there's definitely times where you need Counteract Magic and Dome of Mist. So this just reduces the cooldown of Cocoon. So it's really good against something like Asa Rogues or Warriors. You know, every time they have big damage, it's good against anything, just so you can Cocoon their damage more. Cocoon is one of the weaker defensive cooldowns in the game. It's not something I'll use as an oh shit button. I'll rather just use it to counter a cooldown with a cooldown. Very often, especially in twos because of dampening. It gets affected by dampening and it actually heals for dog shit. Like when you're deep dampening, this is just the tiniest little shield. It's like a powered shield, you know? It's really shit. Life Cocoon is not a huge cooldown. Early in the game, early in twos, it'll be pretty big. But later on, it's pretty garbage. I often just, like, if I see a Vendetta from a rogue on my partner, I'll instantly just press Cocoon. And then even the first Vendetta, they'll easily go through the Cocoon. People just go through it. It's not a crazy cooldown. So it's nice to have it on a shorter cooldown, of course, if you can. This is what you'll pick if you can. So you can Cocoon more often and counter cooldowns. But you need Counteract Magic against dot classes like Afflilock, Shadow Priest, Mistweaver are insanely strong against dot damage because of Counteract Magic and Healing Spare. I'll get into that later. But if I'm face a Lock or a Priest, I'll go Counteract Magic, and then you just really make sure that your Renewing Mist is always up and it heals for a ton. It's like really big. You have to prioritize it more so than before because of how much more it heals with this. Dome of Mist, I'll often go in twos because of purges. This is like insanely important if you face a team that has purge and you think they're going to end up purging, which in twos specifically, they do a ton. If I face an Enhancement Shaman or Ellie Shaman or even a good Resto Shaman that knows when to purge, I'll be screwed without this talent. Every time I face a Shaman, I'll pick it. Very often against Priests, I'll pick it. Disc Priests, against Shadow Priest, you need Contract. Dome of Mist is just something you need against Purge. It's very important. Last tier, Fortune Turned. It's basically between Fortune Turned and Healing Spare. You never pick Refreshing Breeze. Fortune Turned, I pick most games. Healing Spare, I pick against dot classes. Like I said before, Counter Art Magic with Healing Spear is insane against Lock and Shadow Priest dot classes, because you can put them out anywhere on the ground, and then anytime someone walks into one of these, it dispels all your dots. That's the insane part about it. It's really overpowered against dot classes. So now I have 3 dispels on the ground, and I already have a 4th one lining up, right? So as soon as we E1, I can put 1 more down. And then on top of that, we have the normal dispel, Detox, right? So you can basically spam dispel dots all the time. If you face a Shadow Priest, you just put orbs out. Every time he lands a VT, you eat an orb, right? And you can just make it so hard for them. Like you hard counter, if you play well, you hard counter Locks, and you hard counter Shadow Priests. You heal their damage really well with Crane. You heal their damage really well with Counter Art Magic and Healing Spear. Those 3 talents are really, really, really strong against dot. And that's why you should always beat dot. Okay, so traits. The main, let's see. Is there anything important you need to remember with traits? Let me think. Shroud of Mist is something to keep in mind. Reduces all damage you take by 13% while you're channeling Soothing Mist. You gotta remember, when you have Soothing Mist up like this, if you press Renewing or Chi Wave, which is the part of your rotation, it'll break your Soothing Mist. And Soothing Mist reduces the damage you take. That's something to keep in mind. Spirit Tether, that's the other thing you can keep in mind. I can get into this a little bit more later, but it's basically when you put your portal down, it's a slow, which is undispellable. And it's actually really good. Whenever someone's close to your portal, they'll be slowed. So when you're running around a pillar, you just put a port down to slow them, and you run faster. You know, I think that's the main 2 talents you actually, or traits you have to think about. The others kind of like, it is what it is. You should read all your talents so you know what they do, but like, it's just basic stuff that you don't need to think about at all. Basically, like increased healing, increased damage absorb, reduce cooldown. You know, you don't really need to think about it. And then the rotation. This is the important part. The rotation of Crane Monk specifically. There is so many people that do this wrong. So again, Rising Thunder with Way of the Crane. That's extremely important. If you don't play Rising Thunder, you're doing it wrong. You need that with Way of the Crane. There is so many people that mess up the rotation with Crane Monk, so I want to make it clear. You can do the math on this yourself. I've done the math, and I've talked to other really good Mistweavers, and I am sure this is the way to do it. I've had some discussions with chat. Some people think it's wrong. It's not wrong. And this is how you're preferably going to use your Crane. So what I want to explain is, when you're craning, if you have time, which you very often will, you should try and make time for it, is to get your stacks up. So you have 3 buttons when you use Crane. It's Rising Sun Kick, which is your big burst. And then it's Tiger Palm, which is your generator. And then you have Blackout Kick to use the stacks you generated, right? So 3 buttons. So what you want to do when you're not craning, you should try and get your stacks up. This is a very important part and a pretty big deal to playing Crane Monk. When you're not craning, you want to try and Tiger Palm to get stacks up, right? Every time you Tiger Palm, you get 1 stack. Your next Blackout Kick strikes an additional 1 time. This is a key part to crane, these stacks. You want to Tiger Palm, 2, 3. You can get 3 stacks max. Doesn't go higher than 3. You try to get these 3 stacks and maintain them outside of crane, because you want to have them ready for when you crane so you can burst, right? So say I'm in this situation, I have 3 stacks ready and I'm about to crane. The first thing you do is Rising Sun Kick. You prioritize Rising Sun Kick. So you pop Crane, Rising Sun Kick, and then you Blackout Kick with the 3 stacks. And then my Rising Sun Kick reset its cooldown because I got lucky. So I use that again, and then I get my 3 stacks again. You farm for 3 stacks every time. This is how you use your Crane. It didn't reset, so I'm farming for 3 stacks again. Now my Rising Sun Kick's ready. Now I Blackout Kick because I have 3 stacks. It didn't reset the cooldown, I got unlucky, so now I'm back to farming stacks. So the priority is Rising Sun Kick, number 1 priority. Blackout Kick with 3 stacks, number 2 priority, and then you farm stacks. So Rising Sun Kick, use my 3 stacks, I got a Rising Sun Kick again, and then I farm 3 stacks. This is what people do wrong. They don't farm the stacks. You should farm the stacks, it's worth it. There is situations, of course, where, for example, if someone is at 2% health and you don't have stacks, I'll probably just press Blackout Kick to try and finish them off. Because in that global, it'll be a little bit more damage. But overall, the most efficient way to do it is to farm your stacks. You'll heal more, you'll do more damage. And you have a higher chance to reset the Rising Sun Kick with the stacks. That's what some people have mixed up. They think that it's a higher chance to reset Rising Sun Kick by spamming Blackout Kick. But that isn't the case, because the stacks increases your chance of resetting the Rising Sun Kick. That might sound confusing, but this is the way you do your rotation. Just trust me. Another thing with Crane that's nice to know, this is what you always want to do, right? You want to do melee damage, it'll be the most damage and the most healing. But there'll be a situation where you can't reach someone, or your Crane is just about to fade, or you just want to, for some reason you want to stay on range. When you have Crane up and you crackle, the crackle heals. The damage you do with crackle will heal. It's not going to be a ton. You'll do more if you're hitting them with melee. But this does heal when you have Crane up. When Crane is over, it doesn't heal anymore. So Crane is a 45-second cooldown. And it removes all stuns that you are in. And it makes you immune to all stuns that people try to throw on you. You are immune to slows. You are immune to roots. Think about that. It's really, really strong. It's a 45-second cooldown trinket, basically. A second trinket. This is what makes it really powerful as well. So you don't want to just press it willy-nilly. You want to think about it a little bit. Think about what you're playing against, right? Often, what people, like smart players will do, they'll just spam damage and try to force you to use Crane for healing, which can be okay to do for you, even though that's what they're trying to make you do. You just have to be careful when you don't have Crane to not get caught in a stun, right? That's also something, a key part of Crane is stuns. So if I'm playing against a Rat Paladin, for example, often I will try to make them hodge me so that I can break the hodge with way of the Crane, right? So sometimes I'll like on purpose play too close to them so they hodge me, like basically trying to eat the hodge on purpose. So that they use it, and then I can just Crane out of it, and then I get a ton of value, right? Because I get to remove it. So often you'll get stunned and you don't have any stacks, but you're obviously going to Crane because you want to get out of the stun, and that's really good value. And then you just start stacking. Rising Sun Kick and start stacking. But smart players will often not stun you because they know you're playing Crane. And that's when it gets more tricky, right? So if I'm playing against a Red Paladin that never hodges me because he's waiting for my Crane, I'll probably try to find an opportunity to Crane just for damage and healing. Probably when they have a little bit of pressure already, say I'm on 60% and my partner's on 50%, and I really want some burst healing to pick us up. I'll get my stacks, I'll Crane and just top us up, right? What I'll do then is right before Crane ends, I have to get away so he doesn't hodge me. Because they always want to stun you as soon as your Crane is over. Because that's when your healing is over, you're not immune to stuns, you're gonna get shit on. So habit is always, you know, my Crane's about to end, I need to get out. Get out before it's over. Because they will instantly stun you. When I play against a Crane Monk, I am staring at his Crane buff. As soon as it's over, insta-stun him. Right? So here, like this, when I'm popping my Crane, I'm just going ham, I'm doing max damage, right? No one can stun me, no one can root me, no one can slow me. I'm just going ham, doing tons of damage, tons of healing. And now I see my Crane's about to end, I get my last burst, and then I get out. Or I port, preferably. That's like the standard rotation for Crane. So the standard rotation for healing is very simple as well. I'll go through that as well real quick. So when you don't have Crane up, or you're just saving Crane and you're healing normally, it's pretty simple. You keep your renewing mist up, right? That hot. And then you Chi Wave. You have to be a little bit mindful with your Chi Wave because it'll break your paralyze and stuff. So don't Chi Wave and then paralyze because your Chi Wave will basically just break your paralyze. Rather just save your Chi Wave and use your paralyze in that case, right? But you Renewing Mist in general, and you Chi Wave, and you just do those on cooldown, right? And then other than that, you Thunder Focus Tea. Right? And that's it. You Thunder Focus Tea, Enveloping Mist. That's what you pretty much always use it for, because it makes Enveloping Mist instant. So you keep that hot up, and you keep this hot up, hot/dot, Chi Wave, and then you Thunder Focus Tea, Enveloping. And when you don't have Thunder Focus Tea, you have to cast it. But because you're playing Rising Thunder, you can reset your Thunder Focus. So you keep this hot up, you use this hot, and then you insta Enveloping, right? And then my Enveloping is about to fade. I go and hit a pet, a player, whatever the fuck. Doesn't matter. You Rising Sun Kick something. It resets your Thunder Focus Tea every time. And Rising Sun Kick only has, a 9-second cooldown, 9-10 seconds. And then you can Enveloping again. And that's basically it, right? Okay, time to get my hots up. Now a Rising Sun Kick and another Enveloping. This is a ton of healing. Like, usually that's enough, unless people are bursting, right? It's decent healing. Again, Rising Sun Kick, I get my hots up, and then I use Thunder Focus Tea, Soothing Mist. That's the standard rotation. So when you do Crane, I explained it correct before, but you need to use Thunder Focus Tea, Enveloping in between, right? Even when you're craning. So I'll crane. I'll show you now. I'm craning. I have 3 stacks stacked up. I'm craning. I Rising Sun Kick, Thunder Focus Tea, Enveloping, and then Blackout Kick. Rising Sun Kick, Thunder Focus Tea, Enveloping, and get my stacks again. You don't always do that. It's situational. This is like extra healing, right? If you need the extra healing, you'll use it in your crane. It's definitely worth it. But if everyone's 100%, I'll just spam damage, and it'll be enough. If you need the extra healing, your crane's not really cutting it, definitely throw in the Thunder Focus Tea, Enveloping. I do that very often. Okay, I'm gonna queue now.